We'll see. Internet's holding for now. Hey, it may work. It may actually work today. There we go. The internet doesn't hate me today. For a change. Hey guys, let me know if you can hear me alright. Just going to be mucking around working on some enclosures. Some of these new backgrounds and stuff that I've been mucking around with, these exoterras. Thanks Bailey. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. I've got so many I'm working on now, I'm a little bit overwhelmed to be honest. I did myself the the favour of buying another 2 exoterras today. One which you can see just kind of propped up next to the window there and a little stand. I'm just going through at the moment, I'm just waterproofing a whole bunch of them. So I've done the expanding foam backgrounds on these guys here. I'm just going through with pond sealer just to make them waterproof, so I figured I'd do a live video while I was mucking around doing this. 2 birds, 1 stone, so they say. The first coat of this is always the worst because it's where you find all the little gaps and everything in your background that need filling in. But yeah, I figured I'd just come along for a chat anyway while I was tinkering away. It's a rainy old Sunday here, so worth doing that. Oops. What are you guys up to today, apart from hanging out here? I'm actually surprised that whoa. Need to fix up this thing. I'm actually surprised my internet's not hating on me today. The last few times I've tried to do a YouTube live video, it's just crapped itself. Let me fix this up. Usually I don't do them at this early in the day, but hell, why not? This is just one of those tedious things that I know once I've done all of these, and I shouldn't have to do it again. In theory, it'll be fantastic, but for now, it's kind of a little bit dreadful. Don't really want to do it. I do and I don't. I just know how much time it takes, and I'm a bit of an impatient person sometimes, so see what happens. But yeah, as I said, the first layer is always the worst. So I'll show you guys a little bit closer of what I do. Oh, that's nice. Nice of you to say. Wait for a few more people to get into here. How many layers of pond sealer do I use? To be honest, usually only about 2 or 3. It depends on the animals that I'm going to have in here. If it's going to be some sort of animal that's got, you know, sharp claws and it's going to get into it a fair bit, then probably a fair bit more. But, you know, I'll at least do a couple of decent base layers probably of this black pond sealer. Might actually just throw down some paper towels before I make a mess. Might ever just close the doors to these guys. Sorry about the reflection, but Just means that I'm not going to make a mess on this table. It's not my table, so I don't want to ruin it. Sorry, I've just seen a couple of comments come through. What is my favourite reptile to work with? I'm not sure. I think I've got too many favourites, to be honest, to kind of limit it down to one particular species. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure the answer to that question. I do like working with monitors. I think that they give me a little bit. So, you know, they're just very, very inquisitive, very curious animals that are very intelligent in themselves. So I get a kick out of that. I really enjoy working with frogs actually as well. Hey Dino, just finished making, this is scrambles, this is by added calcium and the superfoods my scramble mix. Yeah, good idea. It's always good adding those bits and pieces. I know some people just even leave the eggshell in there, to be honest, and just crush that all up through there, so that's a little bit of an added calcium hit as well. Just depends on what you're feeding, because of course you don't want anything choking on a big piece of eggshell. But if it's a big monitor, you'd probably be fine. Yeah, ideally I'd want to do probably even 3 to 4 coats of this stuff. But what I'll do is probably do 2 or 3 decent coats of this. Then I'll probably hit it with like a sandstone version of this. This cromlin pond sealer, and that's just because of the texture that's in there. But in saying that as well, it'll also give me a little bit of grit and everything in there, and it'll give me a chance to kind of colour it up, and then I'll just do a few layers of different coloured paints and things on here. It doesn't matter which way I turn at the moment, I'm finding little gaps everywhere where my brush just hasn't hit. A little bit painful. I'm definitely going to have to take my time with this. Alright. Baby Lacey, yeah. That'll definitely love the scrambled eggs then. My monitors go nuts with scrambled eggs. So this is the smallest of 5 enclosures I've got to do this to currently. I've got 2 that are ready for the pond sealer, and then I've got another 3 that I need to just finish shaping up and finish siliconing around the edges, and then from there they'll be ready for sealer as well. I don't get too phased with making a bit of a mess around the inside lip of these exoterras, because once the lid's on you're not going to see anything, so you know, it all just stops little critters and stuff getting around. I just really want to make sure that the foam in particular is really sealed up, because I'd hate for any crickets or anything like that to start eating through foam and hiding in places that they shouldn't. I'm having one little regret with these as well, is I actually wish that I made the backgrounds on the sides right down to the bottom of the tank, just so then I could seal along the front, whereas now I've kind of got to get in behind and underneath all of it to try to find, to try to get the sealer in underneath the ledges, which in these little things is just a nightmare. But we'll see how everything goes. Most of these are just going to have little frogs and things in them. They're not going to be anything too crazy. A couple of leaf-tail geckos. Nothing too mental. Just check these comments out. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, you can see how there's like all these little holes and stuff through the back here, and that's just because of the way that the expanding foams come through. So I just need to make sure that the front side, inside of the enclosure itself, that's all covered up, so that there's no chance of any critters or anything getting behind in there. That's the last thing we want. Turn this around so you guys can see a little bit better as to where I'm at. Yeah, it's a miserable old day here in Sydney today. Lots of rain. Doing the back wall, so I'll open these up. I'm not so worried about this back wall in particular, just because it is actually an old an old fake background. I think in future builds I could even cheat the system a little bit and use some of these foam backgrounds, just because I do get them for reasonably cheap, and do that 3 ways around and just kind of use the expanding foams in the corner and stuff just to kind of blend them together. I reckon that might not be a bad idea, just to kind of really just fasten up some of the builds, and then I can go over it with the sealer and a bit of colour and everything. We'll have to see what happens in the future, because it's all time, right? And I've got a lot of these enclosures to do. I just got those other couple of exoterras, so I think I'm up to about 22 exoterra enclosures, and I want to do this to every single one of them. So it's it's a fair bit of work that I'm going to be trying to take on, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. What do we got here? Would you recommend a White's tree frog for a beginner frog? Yeah, I definitely would. White's tree frog, they're the same. I mean, we just call them green tree frogs here in Australia, but I'm pretty sure they're whites or dumpy tree frogs. So I know in the US they get called that a lot. So if they're the same species that I'm thinking of, definitely. They're easy frogs. And here one of my common eastern froglets going off at the moment. But yeah, very easy frogs. I think my first frog was one of those. I kind of regret getting rid of them, to be honest. I went through a few phases where I was in and out of frogs for a couple of years, but I really regret getting rid of my Blue Mountains tree frogs, because I haven't seen those come up again. Yeah, such beautiful frogs too. But, you know, you make mistakes. I've had there's a few animals out there that I've kept in the past that I regret getting rid of, but you live and you learn. And sometimes you fall out of love with animals too, and then you kind of realise that, no, they were actually pretty cool. So I've missed all underneath this edge. So I've got 2 of these enclosures that I'm painting today. Yeah. Fair bit of work ahead of me. What else we got going on in here? Can you use just an LED light for a frog tank with plants, and would the plants be okay with LED lights? Yeah, there's no reason why you can't just use LED lights. I'm actually looking at options to try to figure out what to do above my bioactive tanks. I want to try to switch out switch out to LED lights. But it's just about trying to find the right options. You just want to make sure that you find something that's probably about 6,400 Kelvin or 6,400 Kelvin, something in that range, because that tends to be a really nice natural light spectrum for your plants and things. Yeah, I definitely think you can get away with it. I mean, I don't actually use UVB above any of my frogs, but I do feed them heavily with vitamin D3 powders and stuff. So, you know, just be cautious with that. You know, if you're concerned at all, just use UVB in conjunction with the LED light. Oh, that's awesome. That's cool if you're getting your baby Lacey to take stuff from the tongs. It's a good way to start training them young, especially with tasty tidbits. It definitely lets them know that you're not a threat and you're worth having around, and you're the guy with food. Positive reinforcement, as they say. I have to see how I'm going on the underside of this tank. Sorry guys, not much of a view for a sec. I just want to make sure that I'm getting all the spots underneath that ledge as well. I'll flip the enclosure up in a tick. You know what? I think this is the first time that I've actually used pond sealer and I've worn gloves. So such a simple thing, but I'm usually not a fan of gloves. But thanks to COVID, they're everywhere. So it doesn't hurt to pick up a few pairs and use them for things like this. I feel like an idiot for never doing it before. But again, you live and you learn. I'll flip this bad boy back up. So I'm going to be blacking out all the sides on these enclosures using matte black vinyl as well, which will be pretty cool. Looking forward to doing that. I'm not seeing any of this ugly foam. Evil necessity. Hey Max, how you going? Because I'm planning to get frogs again and build a fawn fly cage and cover it with black pond sealer. Yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. I'm just a fan of having things that are well and truly sealed with silicone and stuff, so there's no reason why you couldn't do that. And depending on what you're keeping in there, like, I mean, I wouldn't be having a water area at the bottom necessarily, just because I probably wouldn't trust my own work. But, you know, if you're just doing like a large water bowl or something like that in there, then frogs will be fine in a fawn fly enclosure. There's no reason why they wouldn't be. But, you know, even fawn fly will succumb to water eventually, whereas glass will not. And that's why I get right into these exoterra enclosures. Little fella's croaking up behind me. I love those little frogs. Very underrated species. What else we got here? Hey Max, how you going? Yeah, chicken heart good for him as well. Thanks Max, it was a pretty good photo of him. A bit of a photogenic lizard, that one. Old Billy the Frilly. Really original name, I know. So yeah, as I said, I'll probably be doing at least 2 coats of this pond sealer. Then I'll probably do a coat of sand sealer again. You can kind of see it's almost blue when it goes on, but when it dries, it just dries jet black. So it's all non-toxic stuff. So fine for your animals. Oh, now I've made a mess of my glove. Can't touch my phone with that. A rainy old day. I'm pretty excited. I should be getting a variety of new frogs soon in the next coming weeks. I know I said I wasn't going to get any more animals, but I clearly lied. One species I've had in the works for a little while now, I've been talking on and off to a friend about, so I'll be super excited to get my hands on them. Just because I'm a real fan of the genus in particular. How am I going to get into that? Oh, there we are. And some of these spots, tell you what, not easy to reach. I'll definitely remember this when I'm foaming out a whole bunch of other enclosures. You can probably see that most of that's nice and black there. Use my good little pinky here to do this. Yeah, Max is right. It's the one from Bunnings. I think man, if they've gone up to $15, man, I think I've paid an 11 before. Can you not lay sand on your wet expander foam to get effect without silicone? I haven't tried it, so I'm not 100% sure, Dino. I'm not sure. Well, I think the biggest thing is that I actually I carved back the expanding foam. So, you know, if I was to have left this all with just expanding foam in there, the walls were like no space for the actual frog in there. Like I've done so much carving to it that it's created a lot more area. So yeah, I don't know if that would work. Plus, then your expanding foam then has a smooth texture to it, so it's not really good for adhering things like pond sealer and that too. So it might be a little bit difficult. You might have to have an experiment and see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, not breeding my greens, unfortunately. My little one's still too small, and I actually don't know the sex of it. So one day I will. It is on my bucket list to do that, but yeah, it's a little bit hard to say as to when I'm going to do it. I've tried to put greens together a few times now, and it always ends up with one of them running away. So we'll see. Future. In the future. Just having a look underneath here to see how it's all looking. All the expanding foam and stuff, or sorry, all the sealer and that's on the bottom of the tank. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's like all patchy sealer and stuff on the bottom of the tank. I'll be tearing all that off with a razor blade, so won't worry about that too much right now. I think that's pretty good for a first coat. I just kind of want to thin out any potential thick patches, just because I don't want it to go too bad. Sometimes if you do this too thick, it can actually crack, like where the sealer's too thick. So that'll probably do for coat number 1. So I'll give you a bit of a better look there. Nothing much to look at right now, but you can kind of see a little bit easier now that the paint's on there. There is quite a lot of texture on these little rock walls. I think one of the species of frog that I'll be getting will be going into this tank. So that's why I really wanted to nail this one down and get it done first. I honestly can't wait to get these frogs either. I'll just go and grab my other tank that I'm going to work on and give that a layer of this stuff, good stuff. This one's slightly bigger. It's a 30 by 30 by 45 Exoterra. You can see, might just give it a bit of a shake. There's still a few bits of loose foam in there. Alright. So you can see there the black edges at the front. Well, that's just silicone. And that's simply there because sometimes, must have siliconed my doors together. I have to trim that with a razor blade. I'll do that during the cleanup. So that's because sometimes these expanding foam walls might actually separate off the... You're right, mate? We're trying to do a live video here. Yeah, sometimes the expanding foam will actually separate off the glass wall itself. So by having the silicone there, joining the two together, then it should never physically come apart. So anyway, in theory, because I don't want to be doing this again. Sorry guys, we're just going to come through to this list here. Where Jasper say, hey Luke, I'm getting an R2 Dragon's license. Can I then get an R2 Python or any other R2 Reptile? Do I have to get an R1 Python? Sorry guys, it keeps kind of disappearing with the comments on me. It's kind of fun, like you can apply for an R2 license on any sort of animal, and then it opens up the R2 animals on the license book. So your call. If you think you can look after an R2 Python and it gives you the option to put it on your license, it's kind of, as far as I'm concerned, it's there. What am I breeding this year? Don't know. Trying for diamonds, trying for gillons, trying for blotch blue tongues, trying for Wilberva leaf-tailed geckos. I'd really like to do common eastern froglets and green stream frogs. Maybe some beaded geckos and marbled velvet geckos as well. I bred my children's, but the clutch tanked, so lost all those eggs, unfortunately. So yeah, not too many things going on. See you later, Moses. So you can keep a Lacey and a Woma on an R2. A Womas are just on an R1, I think. Why are Womas on an R2? I've always had them on an R1. Yeah, I mean, I had 5 Womas on my R1, so I don't know why that's changed around, or if it's changed around. I'd have to have a look at the keepers list again to see where they're sitting. Yeah, I think it's weird that Ruffies and green tree pythons are on R2. I can kind of understand with green trees a little bit, just because they're a bit more finicky. But yeah, pretty weird for Ruffies, I think. I'm just going to lay this down so I can actually paint the underside of it first. Oh, get out of my ladder chair. Move this out of the way so you guys can probably see what I'm doing. Nothing exciting, just painting foam. I'm going to be breeding some more bugs here shortly as well, some different stuff. No cockroaches, thankfully. Well, I mean, I've got cockroaches here, but I don't go out of my way to breed woodies. Me and woodies just don't agree. Well, actually, my sinuses and woodies don't agree. But I finally got my hands on some wingless fruit flies. So I'm just waiting for those to be shipped out to me. So then hopefully I can start saving money on extra small crickets for these little frogs and things. And start doing my wingless fruit fly cultures, just like the guys in the US that keep dart frogs and things. So that'll be cool. Hopefully I can get those up and running, and if I do, I'll show you guys how I do it, and maybe even start passing the love around, and you know, if I get enough stock and enough interest, depending on what everyone's keeping. Most people aren't keeping tiny little critters like I am, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I wanted to get my hands on some of those just in case I did breed frogs, because it'd just be a handy little source to have if I had a whole bunch of tadpoles or anything out. I want to try to breed my own earthworms as well. Not only for the bioactive enclosures and having them as kind of cleanup crew and creating some worm castings and stuff in there, but also just for a bit of food for some of my other animals like my turtles and my boids and stuff. I know would go nuts for earthworms. Maybe even some of the frogs when they get a little larger. Oh man, this enclosure around the bottom here is so much easier to paint. The last one that I did, I think it's just because I made like a ledge down the bottom, and that was a disaster. Trying to get paint in under that, man. Did not enjoy that. Get to the comments in a tick, guys. I'll just do this kind of under edge side, and I'll give everyone's comments a read. I can't wait to have all these backgrounds done though. I'm kind of contemplating whether I do, like in particular for like the small frogs and things, whether or not I actually just do like a little water area along the front of each one of these enclosures, even if it's just kind of like, you know, a couple of centimeters from front to back into the enclosure, and then it comes into like a drainage layer type thing that's maybe separated by rocks and foam and bits and pieces. But I think that looks so cool, having that there and giving the frogs somewhere they can swim around, and it'll be something that's super easy for me to be able to drain. So that's also important, just being able to get the water in and out. Okay. Just got to paint up in this section here. This stuff's so messy. I have a love-hate relationship with it. But it works. That's the main thing. There's going to be a lot of razor blading this stuff off too when I do go clean up all these enclosures before the animals go into them. I think that should do that. Alright, let's check those comments out. My painting hand's better than my other hand. Okay. What do we got going on here, guys? That's weird about the womas. Yeah, I thought so. I thought they'd be on an R1. Oh, I was definitely keeping them on an R1 and they were available then. But that, you know, that's maybe four years ago or so. Bend this thing up. Oh, there we go. You have to keep a pig-nosed turtle on an R2. That's weird. Oh, again, that like a pig-nosed turtle, that's a lot of work. They're also one of those animals that aren't so common. They're not commonly bred in the hobby. You know, I can kind of understand as to why they're on R2 too. Like, you just don't. That's not an animal that you want kind of Joe Blow just to have and, you know, potentially lose it to the hobby because it could be going somewhere where they could be being bred. Yeah, exactly, Dino. You have to keep a Boyd's in an R2. Yeah, Boyd's I probably think could probably come down to R1 personally. Well, I mean, my experience with them is they're pretty damn easy. Aiden says, soon I'm going to be building a DIY reptile tank for an Aki monitor, and I just finished an outdoor blue tongue enclosure. Oh, that's awesome. You have to keep every blue tongue except for an eastern on an R2. No, blotchies are R1. Hey Moses, long time no talk. Right. Get back into painting mode. I need a way to keep this up. Maybe I should get some tape. I might get some tape. I'll be back in a tick. I'm just going to go around to my little tool section over here. Get some tape. Hopefully make my life a little easier. A little bit of gaffer. Oh no, it's going to take my glove off. Thought it was a smart idea, maybe not. There we go. That'll keep me open. Yeah, it is a bit weird about some of the blue tongues that are on R2 license. But, you know, that's just New South Wales licensing laws and stuff for you. It's all a little bit backwards, unfortunately. We could have it worse though. Like honestly, it's not too bad. Like I hear people complaining about it all the time, but we could have it a lot worse. Like like Victoria, they can't even keep Wheeler Eye, the little banded knobtail geckos, but they could keep freshwater crocodiles. You know, of course I want to keep freshwater crocodiles, but not being able to keep a tiny gecko. Same as they're not allowed something like the dwarf monitor species that are like pretty readily available these days anyway. But you know, that's reptile keeping in Australia. I think everything's a little bit backwards down here. It's pretty easy to paint these things when the enclosures are actually on the side. I actually think the smaller enclosures are going to be way harder to kind of paint out anyway, just because it's just tight quarters to get brushes and stuff in and out. We'll see. What animal are you more into? I don't know. I'm into a lot of animals. At the moment, I'm on a bit of a frog kick. They're always good fun. Amios were R1. I think you might need to have a look at the old list, Dino, because there's a few things. Maybe it has been a little while since you've had to have a look at it. I was keeping Amio and R1 as well. Some of the stuff's just crazy though. Tell you what though, if you want to get into a side of herpetoculture that's hard in Australia, man, frog keeping's almost impossible. There's not a range of frogs out there. We have so many frogs in Australia, but nobody's breeding them. Well, not many people breeding them and keeping them. Like a lot of my frogs these days, I'm sourcing from interstate because there's sure as hell nobody in New South Wales keeping some of the weird and wonderful things. And if you are into frogs, make sure to jump over onto Facebook and go and join the Australian Amphibians Addicts page, or group rather. Now, it's just a tiny group that we've just recently started up, but there's a few frog nerds on there, so if you are into Aussie frogs or keeping Aussie frogs, it's always a good place to go and check out and talk to other people about frog keeping. What have we got going here? Not sure why red bellies are on R3, but it seems right to me. Sorry, just get up and have a look at something. Yeah, WA is definitely backwards between them and Tassie. I never really got big into the whole carpet morph side of things. It's definitely a wormhole you can go down if you are into morph pythons in Australia. I think that's pretty much the best one to go into as far as variety and stuff goes, if you are into mutations and, you know, breeding different colours and patterns and stuff like that. I think I bred one clutch of Jags, and I just decided, you know what, this isn't for me. And I think part of that was not necessarily because of, it was because of the other offspring that came out of there, what everyone refers to as siblings or sibs. You know, I just really struggled to find homes for them. I was like, oh, I'm not going to breed anything that I'm going to struggle to find a home for. You know, even if it means I get to keep a couple of cool snakes out of it, like what I thought was cool. Yeah, just not for me. We'll see, maybe in the future. I don't know why I said that. I don't think any time in the future I'll be going into breeding carpet morphs again. So many of these enclosures to paint. This is going to be mad fun. What's my favourite? Carpet python, Antaresia, oops, and colubrid. If we're talking Morelia, like Morelia, I'd probably have to say the roughies for me. If we're talking like actual carpet python, oh, I don't know. Technically, you can't call a diamond a carpet python because it's a diamond python. Probably a jungle. Actually, no, I take that back. I think recently I've become more of a fan of the inland carpet pythons, just because we've had a few at work, and they've been really nice snakes. Well, not necessarily personality-wise, but the looks-wise, they're just so blue. Like, you can see in person how blue they are. Like, they've just got like a blue hue to them all the time. So I thought that was really cool. And I've seen some stunning ones that are almost like reds. Which are, it was like a, you know, a carpet python crossed with a Bredley, so to speak. So that was pretty cool. As far as Antaresia, I think I'd have to give it to Stimson's pythons, hands down, just because I've always been a bit of a stimmy nut. And they're just so variable too, so you can get so many different localities of them that just look so different from one another. So I really like that about the Stimson's pythons. As far as colubrids go, honestly, probably night tigers. I think night tigers would be my number one colubrid, just again because that patterning is just phenomenal. I was really actually disappointed that I didn't get to see any in the Northern Territory, because the way I'd heard everybody harp on about them is they were just everywhere. So I thought, oh, I'm guaranteed to see a night tiger at the very least of going up there, but the only snake I actually got close up and personal with was water pythons. And so many holes in this background where it's just got to be like pumped with the pond sealer. I almost need like a little brush to go through and do some detailed work on this. Yeah, so I'd say those would be my top favourites out of those particular species you mentioned, or groups of species rather, the genuses. All Morelias are carpets, changed my mind. How hard did you find it trying to get your rough-scaled pythons? It was actually reasonably hard. I was trying to buy some for probably a year or so. In saying that, like, I wasn't set up for them, so when I did see them come up, I kind of ummed and ahed about it, but I did get there eventually. And I got mine off Peter Birch. He just threw up a post one day, and he said that he's got a handful of them for sale. So I messaged him straight away and said, put my name down for 2, I'm on my way. And drove up to meet him up the coast. And grabbed a couple off him. So I was pretty stoked. It's probably, I mean, they didn't cost me an arm and a leg. They were, I think it was $500 for both of them, which I think is pretty fair for a snake like that. Like, sometimes you see them going a bit cheaper, but I don't really mind paying that sort of price for a snake. It's not really that much money, in my opinion, for an animal that I'm going to enjoy for years to come. And I really do love them. Like, even now I can just see them poking their heads out over in their enclosure over there. I don't know if I can get you there, but it's almost, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but there's one sitting on the rock over there. Especially when you got them set up in an enclosure like that to me, that's a lot more enjoyable with keeping that kind of animal. I'm going to flip this thing on its back now. So I think I'm pretty much done that side, apart from the top edge. I had some of the first roughies released by Snake Ranch, 1500 I think they were. Jeez, I would have thought they would have been more expensive than that. That's cool though. It is a bit of a shame that it's not a very diverse group of blood in those snakes though. It'd be cool if somebody was able to kind of get like a legal collect permit and start up another group of them, just to bring a bit of different blood in there. Like, I'm sure there's not a hell of a lot of blood mixture out there in the wild, to be honest, because there's such a small group of snakes out there in the Kimberley. Sometimes it's pretty easy when you get like a big thick glob of this stuff and just really coat it on there and squeeze it into all the little gaps and stuff. And each coat after this coat's going to be way easier to apply too. So that's why it's taking me a little bit of time now. I'm just trying to make sure that I do it properly. Do a good job, do it once. Hopefully, it lasts a lifetime. We'll see. If you guys haven't already checked him out, do yourselves a favour and go and check out Troy Goldberg on YouTube. He is a massive inspiration to me. His dart frog room, or garage, or frog room, or whatever you want to call it, is out of this world. And that's honestly what I want my house to look like, is just full of kind of matching enclosures with all these amazing critters jumping around in them. He does some awesome work, puts out some decent quality videos as well. He spends a bit of time on his stuff. He did a build recently where he showed how he carved out a new enclosure with a wire wheel on a drill. And it turned out pretty well. It was enough for me to kind of go, you know what, I need to try that. And that's what I did to these enclosures, and then I kind of just gave them a little hit with a Dremel afterwards, just to try to even them out a bit, create some different textures. It was such a good idea. I thought it was so ingenious. A little bit annoyed that I hadn't thought of it already from some of the other enclosures, like the roughy enclosure that I did, but you live and you learn. I'm just glad that he told everyone the secret to making carving a lot easier. But I have to say, I still did use a steak knife for a lot of this. And that's just because it's so easy just to kind of get it in and not make so much mess. Because the wire wheel, man, you get left with a pile of foam after it, and it is a bit painful cleaning all that up. I don't mind how this enclosure's got like heaps of little holes in the foam and stuff. I reckon it's quite cool. Adds a bit more depth to it. And it'll give little places for plant roots and things like that to go and hang out. The only downside is it's a bit painful to paint. Quickly have a look at these comments. Have you ever seen Emerald? Yeah, they've got a hell of a set of jaws on them, that's for sure. Oh yeah. I do like Pete's roughy enclosure. Have to give him credit there. It's a nice looking box in my opinion. I just love the size of it, the sheer enormity of it. I think it's just cool. The fact that you could walk into it essentially and hang out with your snakes. Who doesn't want that? Bugger. How big has your olive gotten now? Oh, he's about the same size as he was a week ago. He's probably about 1.5 meters, thereabouts. I actually had him out for a bit of a check over yesterday, and I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I didn't realise, but all of a sudden I couldn't feel Atlas's weight on me. I turned around and he was halfway up a tree. He just leant out from heaps far behind me, and yeah, he'd gone right up a tree, so I had to go and catch him now. Where is your favourite place to go herping? I've got a little spot locally that I really like checking out. And it's because you get to actually know the animals there. It's almost a little bit sad to say, because sometimes I get bored of seeing the same old thing, but in saying that, you start to recognise some of the animals, like a diamond python, that has a certain pattern or whatever, and you see it year in, year out. I think that's pretty cool. Or, I've seen a bandy for like the last 4 or 5 years, the exact same bandy. I can just tell by some certain spots and stuff on him, and it's always cool seeing him, and he's usually pretty good if I want to pick him up or take a photo or something like that. He tends to hang around. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's touched him. He's pretty habituated to humans, I dare say. But yeah, that's just locally to me in Sydney. Although in saying that, it was really, really cool to be up in the country and see where some of my other critters and stuff come from, and like just feel the heat and stuff of the top end. I thought that was amazing. So I do have quite a few animals that kind of come from up that way, or at least the top of Australia, like the Kimberley rock monitor, the roughies, the olive. Dare say, like if you kind of want to count the green tree pythons, like they are top end species. We're getting there. Getting there. this around to get some paint into it. Every time you flip this thing around, you find some spots you've missed. Have you ever been herping at the Royal National Park, and if so, what did you find? I haven't actually. I need to go out there and just have a look around. I reckon it'd be a pretty cool spot to go and check. It's a fair way away from where I am. I'm up near, I pretty much back onto Ku-ring-gai National Park. So that's kind of my stomping ground, if anything. Another damn hole. Keep finding spots I'm missing. Let's see, it's coming along nicely. I'm so excited for these frogs to come. Right, check these comments out. It's getting there, that's for sure. It is certainly getting there. It'll look a lot nicer when it's done, but they do say patience is a virtue, apparently. As I said earlier, I don't have much patience. But we'll just have to see how we go. It's just fiddly, especially this first layer. Like once you kind of see like the painting and stuff like that going on in these, and don't worry, I will be releasing a video on this as well. I'm not sure as to when the video is going to be coming out, but that just depends on how much work I get done on these and how soon. But yeah, it's, you know, once I start kind of dry brushing and going around doing that to these things, that'll really make all the edges and stuff pop to it. Do a bunch of different layering and stuff to them. And hopefully one day these backgrounds will be a background, and they'll be covered completely in plants. So the plants will be kind of catching your eye more than the actual background itself. That's why I haven't bothered too much with, like, you know, how perfectly it's carved or whether it looks identical to a rock or anything like that. You know, I want this to be kind of just a bit of a 3D texture more than anything. But we will see. I need to start growing some creeping figs and stuff for myself just to be able to harvest from, I think. It's another step that I'm kind of tinkering around with. It's a bit of like, probably got paint all over my tripod now. Whoa. It's a bit of my own like plant growing. So even like these little shoots over here, this is all actually wandering dew that I just took from the backyard and put into cups of water and stuff. So I'm starting to propagate my own wandering dew to put into enclosures and let it go wild and bushy and stuff, which will be cool. What's going on in the chat? Water dragons are cool. Water dragons are honestly like a very underrated lizard, I think. We get a whole heap of them around here. I'm actually really close to a golf course, so there's a stack of water dragons around. Every now and then you get them running up here trying to get into my turtle pond. Cheeky little devils. I'll actually tell you a funny story about a water dragon. So, I was herping in my favourite local spot, which I won't name. And I was with one other friend. I think I was with one other friend. And we got like probably, like we kind of walked down to a point and we turned around there and come back. We probably walked about halfway down to the turning point, and all of a sudden, in the middle of a road, there's this egg. It's a little egg, no idea what it was. And anyway, we were like, well, it's definitely a reptile egg. Candled it while I was there, just with the phone torch. It's like, oh yep, no, it's definitely, you know, an alive embryo or whatever in there. It was a pretty cool night too. So I put it in my top pocket, my flannelette shirt, carry on herping, doing all our things. Drove home, popped it in the incubator in a little incubator tub. Thought, you know, we'll give you a shot at life and see what comes out. Here I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like a little brown tree snake, or maybe a green tree snake or something like that. Maybe even a brown snake, who knows. And incubated it for maybe 4 or 5 days, and out comes this little water dragon. We nicknamed him Eggy. I was going to go and release him back where I found him, but to be honest, where I found him, there was absolutely no water. He was in the middle of this area where it's just so far away from where I'd ever seen a water dragon in my life that I couldn't fathom putting him back there and kind of going, good luck, hope you find some water. So I ended up giving him across to a friend. When I say giving him, I mean he's still wild, who's got a pool full of water dragons that just come and go as they please. So he went and put him over into that colony. Little Eggy's still there today. Every now and then I get little updated photos and stuff of Eggy, or who we think is Eggy. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. We have a bit of a joke going with us as well, where, you know, when we're out herping, if you see something cool, you kind of have like a bit of a point system. It's just a bit of a joke, but if you see a water dragon, it's minus 10 points. Just because they're so common. And they're always around. So it's just a bit of a running gag between some friends. But yeah, little Eggy the water dragon. Cool animal. But yeah, as I was saying, they're such an underrated species. Pardon me. I'm actually surprised that not many people keep them in captivity. I know they get pretty big, but you never see too many people with them unless they've got like outdoor pits or anything like that. Man, I think the first layer of this stuff in this enclosure is done. What do you guys reckon? It's so shiny on the camera. Definitely made a mess. It's definitely a whole lot easier around the bottom edges to get to than the other one. I just left myself a bit more space on this one, I think. Just trying to spot any little holes or anything that I've missed out. Worst case, maybe I'll just get them with the second layer. I'm going to take you guys up and give you a bit of a close up on this, so you can have a bit of a better look. Take these gloves off before I touch my phone. You can see why it was so hard. There's so many little holes and things to kind of fill in. It'll look pretty cool once it's all done though. You imagine like a full rack of these too, all over the place. It'd look unreal. Alright, let's see these comments. I used to keep one bull male eastern water dragon that I used to have just under a metre. Used to tear the heads off mice and eat the middle out of the neck. Very gruesome to watch. Yeah, that is pretty gruesome. Yeah, it is like herping bingo. That is pretty much exactly what it is actually. Man, how good are gloves? I feel like I'm discovering the wheel for myself, but don't have to wash my hands. Yeah, definitely herping bingo. Ben says, I just dug up a clutch of what I think are water dragon eggs when I was building a fence, incubating them now to give them a shot at life. Good on ya. I've had a few times where that's happened, where have I done two? I think I've done two separate clutches of water dragons, where when I was working with Sydney Wildlife, you know, somebody would uncover them or whatever and gave them a shot. I think I've done two clutches of wild diamonds, two clutches of water dragons, little eggy, the one random egg. I did have a clutch of green tree snake eggs given to me as well to try to hatch and go back into wild. Mother that didn't make it, but unfortunately, oh no, she did make it, I think, but she just dropped a clutch while she's in care. But the eggs didn't make it. They went foul real quick. Hey mate, do you know of any cheap aspen or is a good substrate to keep hatchling pythons? Because aspen is just so expensive. Aspen is expensive, but if you do want an alternative that I do find a lot cheaper to aspen, and I actually think it's better than aspen, but you still kind of want to go with something that's a reptile product, check out Chipsy, CHIPSI. That's an awesome substrate to use. I've seen little baby snakes eat it and come out the other end. I know that at work it's a lot cheaper than aspen. Costs us a lot less to buy, so then we can pass on savings and stuff to the consumer at the end of the day. And I use it in all the little hatchling snake tanks at work. And most snake people that come in that want something that's just easy to clean and easy to use, then they generally go for that. Alrighty guys, I'm going to jump off here, but I thought I'd just bring you along while I was painting a couple of enclosures. So thank you for joining in. If you did want to make sure you go and check out the new Instagram page as well, I've started up, so hopefully I'll be posting some more content and stuff over on there, and check out the Teespring store and get yourself some cool reptile related merch. I've got a few more designs that I've been meaning to pop up there, so hopefully I'll get those up shortly, and I'll probably bring out some new promo codes around Chrissy to do a bit of a sale, so you know, just keep an eye out on there as well. Thanks so much for jumping on the stream. See you later, Moses. See you later, Max. See you everyone. See you, Dino. See you, Ben. Take care of yourselves and everybody else there involved, and I'll catch you on the next video, guys. Take it easy.